Welcome and good afternoon. This is Commish Orr, and today we're going to give a little update. I haven't done this for a few months. I went back and looked. It's been a few months. We're going to give a little update on my Payoff Pitch League. It's my Payoff Pitch POPs League, and we're in Season 2 of this league, by the way. The league premise, if you're new, is that I have 3 American League and 3 National League teams of Hall of Famers, and 1 team in each of those leagues of non-Hall of Famers, players who are very, very good, but they're not in the Hall of Fame for whatever reason. Players like Barry Bonds or Alex Rodriguez or Shoeless Joe Jackson, Pete Rose, that kind of thing. So that was the premise for my league, and I started this off by, this was before the Legends and Bust sets were out, so I started it off by basically getting all the PDF seasons I could, and then I'm picking the quote-unquote best season for each of these players and using that season card for the league, for their card in the league. And so I came up with my own team names and all of that stuff, but they're based in real Major League Baseball cities. And as I said, I'm in Season 2 here, and we only have about 12 games left for each of these teams in the season. So I thought it'd be a good idea to check in and see how things are going, where the standings stand, and how players are doing, who the statistical leaders are, and that kind of thing. So as we take a look at the standings, you will see that in the American League, Boston is kind of running away with things. 27-15, they're the only team above 500, and they have a 6-game lead on New York, who's in second, and New York is at 500 at 21-21. And then Detroit is the non-Hall of Fame team. They actually won the World Series last year in Season 1, but this year they're 19-23, not doing quite as well. Down in the National League, it's a little bit tighter of a race, and we have the Houston in the lead there, 24-17, and actually Houston just won another game. So they'll have a 3-game lead in the National League over Los Angeles. And as you can see, Los Angeles is on a 4-game losing streak. Houston's on a 3-game winning streak. So there is the difference. It was a tight race for a while. Houston was leading most of the season. And then they kind of faltered a little bit. LA caught up. But then, as I said, LA's had this 4-game losing streak. And Houston's been on a winning streak. So now that lead has expanded to 3 games here in the National League with 12 left to play. Chicago, by the way, is the non-Hall of Fame team in the National League. They've had their struggles. They're 6 games. Actually, they'll be 7 games back here in the National League. So that's taking a look at the standings. Let's take a look at some of these statistical leaders. And here, I'm going to try to blow this up so you can actually see it. There we go. First thing to note is that, and this was true in Season 1 as well, American League offense is much higher than the National League. So American League league-wide batting averages are 281 and ERA 548, which is actually a little higher offense than in Season 1 of the same league, which has mostly the same players. The ERA ended up just under 5, I believe, that season. So ERA is a little bit higher, offense a little bit higher this season. But that's an interesting thing to note, is that the offense is much higher. National League, on the other hand, batting average is 253 and ERA just under 4. So the American League is scoring almost a run and a half more per game than the National League, which of course the batting average, almost 30 points higher in the American League. And if we look at runs scored, 959 runs scored in the American League, 719 in the National League. The best offense in the National League would likely be Houston. Yes, Houston. They have the best batting average, 268. Best slugging, 428. Best on base, 316. But if we look, they wouldn't even be, Yeah, Oakland is the worst offensive team in the American League, and Oakland's still better than that in pretty much, yeah, all of those categories. So very interesting. Very interesting. There's no interleague play until the World Series. So the World Series, there's no playoffs. It's just a World Series with the top NL and top American League team. And last year, it was the American League team that came out on top, the Detroit Rockets. So that's what you see there. Let's take a look at the league leaders. The league leaders are going to be people that you would expect. So look at the batting leaders. Ichiro leading the league in batting average with a 355 average. Joe DiMaggio right behind him at 340. The top hitting National League player, Oscar Charleston, hitting 331. He's a Negro League guy. Tim Raines in second in the National League, 314. So you still have some good hitters over there, but on the whole, the batting averages are just much lower. Highest slugging are two teammates, Dick Allen and Babe Ruth. Dick Allen started the season actually on the non-Hall of Fame team, and then when he was elected to the Hall, he joined one of the Hall of Fame teams. So that's what I do. When players are elected to the Hall of Fame, I move them. They become ineligible for the non-Hall of Fame teams and have a chance at making it on to one of the Hall of Fame teams instead. Nobody with an on-base higher than 400, which is a little surprising. Paul Molitor closest with 398. Kenny Lofton right behind him at 393. Pee Wee Reese, the highest in the National League, at 382. So pretty interesting there. Tris Speaker, 10 triples. Now, I play 1/3 of a season, so I'm going to be playing 54 games, a third of a season. So we kind of have to multiply these stats by 3. Not quite, because, again, we still have 12 games left to play. We are only 42 games in, so a little more than a quarter of a real Major League Baseball season. But if you multiply these totals by 4, Tris Speaker would have 40 triples, which is crazy. On the home run side, Dick Allen and Babe Ruth, teammates, are number 1 and number 2, 17 and 16 home runs. Next closest, Frank Thomas, right behind with 12. In the National League, the highest home run total, Jeff Bagwell with 10. And again, if you multiply these by 4, you get close to what a major league season would be. But again, this is 42, just 42 games so far. Jimmy Fox leading RBI with 43. Top National League, Oscar Charleston with 33. And let's take a look at stolen bases. Kenny Lofton, 15 stolen bases, but also been caught 9 times. So that's interesting. Ichiro, 11 stolen bases, caught 6 times. The thing is, most of these teams have really good catcher arms. So these guys who are going to take more stolen base attempts are tending to get caught more often because of the fact that they're stealing, and they're stealing against great arm catchers. And by the way, I use auto steal, auto sack bunt, that kind of thing, just to keep things more realistic. Though still not a lot of sack bunts. As you can see, the league leaders only have 2. So that's pretty interesting. And let's see, anything else of note? Not really. A couple guys hit into a lot of ground into a lot of double plays. Let's take a look at the pitching leaders. Far and away, the best pitcher in the entire league has been Sandy Koufax. He has a 1.8 ERA, and actually his ERA was even better than that because he just had a bad start. His first game of the season, he allowed 7 runs, I believe. And then just this last start of his, he allowed, I want to say 6, maybe 6 runs. In between those 2 starts, though, he didn't allow more than 2 runs in any start. And most of those starts were either shutouts or 1 run. So a 1.8 ERA for Sandy Koufax. He also leads in wins with 9. He leads in strikeouts. He has 100 strikeouts. He's just been dominant. Opponents are only hitting 192 against him. They're only slugging 296. They're only getting on base 249. He has the most quality starts. He has 10 quality starts. So overall, his whip is 1. So he's just been very dominant. Right behind him in the National League, there's a Juan Marichal, the 192 ERA, also very good. He only has 6 wins though, so he hasn't. Houston, even though they're in first place, he's gotten a little bit unlucky in some of those starts. And if you want to see the top American League pitcher, you have to go all the way down here to number 8 in ERA, and that's Bert Blyleven with a 3.13 ERA, followed by Pedro Martinez with 3.14 ERA. And Blyleven leads the American League in wins with 8. Highest American League strikeouts, Nolan Ryan with 77, but also he's going to be up there in walks too. Saves, Bruce Sutter, 13. Raleigh Fingers, 10. Those are the save leaders in each league. And let's see here. Oh, look at this. Frank Tanana has given up 17 home runs. Crazy. Followed closely by Bob Feller and Mike Messina, who have given up 15 and 14 respectively. Most of those in the American League. Now you get down here, National League leader is Bob Gibson. He's given up 10. Let's see. But he's also induced 12 double plays. There we go. Nolan Ryan is up here in strikeouts, number 4. But look at that. 60 walks. Far and away the league leader in walks with 60. You'd have to go down to Dwight Gooden here, who has half as many walks in the National League, and he's the league leader in the National League. So pretty crazy stuff there. Now, the other thing I was going to note is that we've had a couple of changes because as I record this, we just had Hall of Fame announcements. And let me shrink this back down and get over to the regular screen. So we had a couple of Hall of Fame announcements. So Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones both were inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so both of them were playing on the non-Hall of Fame teams. Beltran was playing for Detroit, and Andrew Jones was playing for Chicago, and they were both starters. Well, let's take a look at how I determine what happens when a player is inducted into the Hall of Fame, or how we shuffle lineups, shall we? All right, so I have a big spreadsheet that I use to keep track of everything, and as you see, I schedule out these games as if they were real on dates. I schedule them out by dates. All of these highlighted games have been played, so as you can see, we're down to the last quarter of the season, less than quarter of the season here as we go through. These highlights are players coming back from injury. This highlight is I got to keep track of the Hall of Famers that I just mentioned that are switching teams. So what happened was I go over here to my, is it player pool? No. Top players by position. So what I did was I went position by position, and I used the Baseball Reference JAWS rating, which is kind of like wins above replacement. It's like a WAR equivalent that kind of gives more weight to the peak of a player's career, a little bit more weight to the peak, I believe. But I use that to kind of rank players by position, by their primary positions, and then basically I'm trying to take the top players to get into the league. And so here's catcher, first, second, third, short, left, center, right. Starting pitchers are these 4 columns, and then relief pitchers. And so we had Carlos Beltran here, American League. He was playing on Detroit, and he got elected to the Hall of Fame. So what I would do is I would compare, there are 3 Hall of Fame teams, and each team has 2 players at each position. 2 players at each position. And I try to keep them in their primary positions. The problem with Beltran is that the blue here is the American League. You already have 6 American Leaguers here, and he's not better than those 6 American Leaguers. Ty Cobb, Tris Speaker, Mickey Mantle, Ricky Henderson, Ken Griffey Jr., and Joe DiMaggio. Those 6 American Leaguers are all higher than Beltran. And so even though he left the non-Hall of Fame team, where he was on that team with Kenny Lofton, he is not good enough to make it to one of the Hall of Fame teams. So effectively, he's not booted out of the league, but he's just sitting here in reserve and probably won't get a shot because these Hall of Famers are all above him. And so he's not going to be able to break onto those teams. Now, what that meant was Detroit had an opening. They have Kenny Lofton, but they needed another center fielder. So what I did was I just went down the list of American League center fielders not in the Hall of Fame. And also they can't be active players too. They cannot be active players too. So that's why Mike Trout is sitting here in gray, because he would be on one of these teams, but he is an active player. And the next highest player is Chet Lemon. So Chet Lemon immediately joined Detroit. Now, on the National League side, it's in red, by the way, we had Andrew Jones. And Andrew Jones was on Chicago, who is the National League non-Hall of Fame team. So when he got elected to the Hall of Fame, he immediately left Chicago and had a shot at joining the National League, one of the National League teams. And as you can see, we have Willie Mays, who's on one of the teams. We have Duke Snyder, Ashburn, Dawson, Oscar Charleston, and Turkey Stearns. Now, Charleston and Stearns are Negro Leaguers, and there has to be a Negro Leaguer on each team. So those two are automatically in, even though they're rated lower than many of these other players. But Andrew Jones is rated higher than a couple of these guys, and so sadly, Andre Dawson got replaced by Andrew Jones on, I believe, Los Angeles. I think it was Los Angeles. So Andrew Jones actually made it to one of the Hall of Fame teams, Los Angeles, and Dawson is now out of the league, or whatever you want to call it. Meanwhile, because Andrew Jones left Chicago, the non-Hall of Fame team, we had to add somebody back, and that player was Willie Davis, who is the next highest ranked National League center fielder. Davis had actually been on the team originally, but when the Legends and Busts set came out, it gave me a card good enough for Andrew Jones to join the team and kind of knock Willie Davis off the team. So now that Andrew Jones is gone, Willie Davis rejoins Chicago. And so that's kind of how I do things when we have these cases of players who join the Hall of Fame, or if a player retires. So recently, Clayton Kershaw, right here, Kershaw retired officially from Major League Baseball, and he had great ratings, as you can see here, in the starting pitchers. And so once he retired, he joined Chicago. So that's why he's highlighted here. If you're looking at other players that could possibly join, by the way, I'm only choosing players who played after 1900. So there are some 1889 guys and some pre-1900 guys. And so that's why you see like Kid Nichols here, and players like that who won't be in the league because they didn't have a significant chunk of their playing time after 1900. So even though they may be carded in Legends and Busts, they're not joining the league. So that's just something else to keep in mind. Now, other players that could come in, Verlander, Greinke. Greinke, even though he hasn't played for a couple of years, has not officially retired from baseball, believe it or not. So he's still sitting there. Scherzer. Those three, if any of them retire, would probably join Chicago or Detroit, respectively, because they're all better than many of the players that are already in the league. So that just kind of gives you some behind the scenes stuff if you're curious and wanted to check that out. And then, as I said, I have little rosters and everything for each team, pitching rotations. I keep track of how many innings they pitched and all of that, so I can make sure to realistically use the pitchers throughout the thing. I do a lefty-righty lineup. I use the DH in both leagues, by the way, and that's kind of how I break things down there. So that's how I keep track of the league, if you were curious. But anyway, I think that's where we leave things today. Just wanted to give an update because it had been a few months since my last update in this league, and that's where things stand. So we have 12 games left to play, which means that Oakland is nearly eliminated from already nearly eliminated from the World Series game because they're 10 games back. Something miraculous would have to happen for them to make it with only 12 games left to play. And then in the National League, Chicago is also 6 games back. So they still have an outside shot, but Houston needs to go on a losing streak for anything interesting to happen over in the National League too. So, and again, American League, New York's in second, and they're 6 games back with 12 left to play. So again, Boston would have to go on a huge losing streak here to make things interesting, which they have recently gone on a losing streak. But then they've now kind of turned things around again. So that's where things stand now. That's where we will leave things. If you're curious about Payoff Pitch and the new PC game that's coming, Game Pulse, I've done a couple of videos on that as I've done some testing on it. It's still in alpha, so doing some testing on that. Check those videos out if you're interested. My other project is Season Ticket Baseball, Best of the Decades Tournament. I'm currently doing the 1960s. So you can check that out as well. I update every game I play on my website here. You can see a little breakdown. You can see the box scores and score sheets and all of that fun stuff. So check out baseballmaelstrom.com if you want to follow that action. But for today, that's where we will leave things. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, have a great evening.